Serious therapists of Reddit, what are some red flags we should look for in therapists? Removed. Removed. I'm only a therapist in training, and I think everyone has covered some great points. I just wanna add that a red flag is if a therapist can't take feedback I really enjoy. When a client tells me, hey, this method/approach isn't working for me because 1, it means they have some trust in our relationship, and 2, we can try something else that might be more effective. If a therapist ignores your feedback and doesn't want to try new approaches with you, get the hell out. It's for the benefit of our clients that we be flexible with our modalities/methods and what helps them the most. Removed. If they immediately try to present you with answers to all of your problems, not lead you to your own solutions. There is a major distinction there. I think there is a misconception that advice giving is what is most helpful. Therapists don't often give advice, but rather they offer alternative perspectives and create space for a collaborative approach to explore new ways of overcoming obstacles. We, as therapists, shouldn't ever assume we know what is best for a client to do. It is their life. If you have a therapist telling you what to do, I would have to assume there is a unhealthy power dynamic occurring which can have a variety of negative outcomes. Of course there is a time and place for advice, but usually that should come from a peer or family who are essentially at the same power level as you. Therapist checks for messages during session. Therapist pushes their own religious views on their client. It's a stupid mistake, but it's common. Therapist discloses content of the sessions to third parties. Exceptions to this rule are consultation, when a therapist seeks a senior or colleagues for technical advice, or when patient's life is at risk. Therapist flirts with client. If they are distracted at all, check a text or email or anything during session. If they can get you in immediately, it may mean they don't have many clients. This could either mean they are very new or not a very good therapist. Could also mean they had a cancellation, so do some research. Any kind of flirtation, it does happen, get out of there. Not helping you define goals to move forward. Some therapists are happy to take your money and just let you bitch about life for an hour, and while that might be a relief for you, it's only going to help long term if there are actionable steps taken that are agreed upon by you and your therapist. This is the work of therapy and most important, but also when many people drop out. Edit. Also, I see life coaches popping up on therapy resource pages. They are not trained professionals. Avoid. If they work in a lot of things about themselves and their lives. If they start most of their responses with at least, and then try to put a silver lining on it instead of honoring your pain and what you shared with them. Edit. My use of the word honor in this context is meant to convey that you take a person's hurt and trauma seriously. Don't diminish or downplay what someone went through or how it affected them. Instead, respect what they've been through and how they got through it so you can focus on healing. Edit 2. Thank you to the people that reminded me of Brené Brown's Silver Lining It talk. It is the perfect example, much better said, and even illustrated in an awesome YouTube video that helped me put this phenomenon into words. When your therapist is sure that you told them things you never did and hold those things against you. Had a psychiatrist like that once, glad I got a new one. The things she held against me made me look like I was actually crazy. Removed. 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 Hi all. After reading some of the replies, combined with some observations of my own, I'm having some concerns about my current counselor. Firstly, is there a difference between counseling and therapy? My counselor tends to let me talk, then will try to provide alternative views on what I'm describing. However, he has not really asked about long-term goals. He has not really discussed techniques to deal with issues. I suffer from social anxiety and depression. This seemed odd. Are these red flags, or am I misunderstanding the goal of counseling? Should I be seeking a therapist instead? If they keep validating that it's okay you feel the way you do, but offer no alternative way of thinking. I'd like to take this time to remind everyone that it's important to find a therapist with whom you can click. If their personality is a clash with yours or their modality doesn't work for you, it's fine to find someone else. Hell, it's expected. This is kind of my own personal style showing in a way, but I'm of the opinion that if every session the therapist is talking more than the client, there's something very wrong. It's a little normal for them to interrupt you to focus on something you said here and there, or direct you if you lose your way, but if they're yammering on, and you can't even talk about what you wanted to, I'd say that's a pretty big red flag for me. That said, I'd still say give it a couple sessions before deciding on that, because the first session can often mean a lot of information gathering, so they have to touch on a lot of things. Therapist here. My role is a little different as I'm a trauma-based / short-term crisis therapist, meaning I just help stabilize my clients to where they can be transferred to a lower level of care. To me, warning flags are no risk assessment, no crisis planning, no exploring triggers, no plan to help you cope when faced with a trigger, especially important when triggered in / out of session, no timeline for treatment, no discussion about your rights as a patient, too much advice giving. I call this cold shoulder people, also giving advice about anything outside of their scope of practice, medical treatment, religious practices, legal issues, etc. In family couples sessions especially, any therapist who acts like a referee to determine who is right or wrong covering these items are important in therapy because it will help the patient long-term and processing emotions, using healthy coping skills and problem solving on their own. I can't speak to those clinicians in private practice because I'm in community mental health, but for agency-based therapy, it is not a long-term service. Most CMH agencies are bound by EBP, evidence-based practices, which are time-limited and short-term, 6 to 12 weeks. I would be wary of a therapist who seems like they are dragging out your treatment. The goal is progress, not perfection. If they start pushing their religious beliefs on you, removed. Not keeping professional boundaries, like sharing personal information about themselves. Giving you direct advice about a serious decision, like a breakup, expressing their personal opinion strongly. Any sign of judging your decisions, opinions or feelings. My boyfriend is a therapist. He said the following: if they don't remind you about your client rights, and that you have the right to choose another counselor, and that you should be exploring other counselors until you find something that fits for you. Counselors who don't offer free consultations. As a client, you have to make sure the fit is right for you. You don't want to spend all this time sharing your story to find out. A consultation is a good way to evaluate fit without pressure. If they take a cookie cutter approach to therapy, regardless of the client. If they do all the talking. My personal red flag experiences with therapists. When they are unable to recognize the needs of the client and admit they might not be the best fit for them. Most therapists I've seen seem to just enjoy hearing themselves speak and provided little opportunity to work through the issues at hand. Lastly, for me, a major red flag are therapists who use worksheets or rely heavily on them. I've had therapists spend half the session talking about worksheets and trying to find them in their files. I'm not there to pay someone to find me shitty photocopied worksheets from the 90s to do at home. I'm there to talk to someone and work through what I'm dealing with. Edit. I understand free consultations are not the standard everywhere. Where we live they are standard and are usually only 30 minutes long. They're used to meet each other and discuss goals and fill out any intake paperwork as needed. This involves either going in and meeting or doing the consultation over the phone. Therapist here. The big three are as follows: talking about themselves in a way that is too detailed or detracts the attention and focus from you. Advice giving: we are not here to tell you what to do. Not referring you on when an issue is out of their competency. For example, attempting to treat LGBTQ issues without training or skills with that particular population. Removed. A few things come to mind right away. 1. Is there any good reason to know about their ex-husband, kids, pets, son-in-law, etc.? I think not. For $100 plus for 45 minutes the focus should be completely on the patient. 2. Should be #1 are they licensed LMAO, and is their office legit? You can check their license number, which should be readily available on their business card, invoice, hung up on office wall / ask for it. Does it look like a business office or an isolated deserted building with just you and them? Do you get a creepy vibe? 3. Do you feel better or worse after you walk out? Do they approach problems with assurances or just make you feel bad about yourself? Do you go home with new tactics or strengthen tactics to deal with your life? 4. Are they building you up to function well on your own? Do they measure success by you not always needing sessions? Are they happy for you when you are stable enough to dial back frequency of sessions? 5. Are you practicing techniques in your sessions that can be used when you are on your own? Are they holding you hostage as a place to spill your guts, or are they teaching you to practice their methods across multiple parts of your life? If they disclose more about themselves than you do. When used appropriately, it is usually a way to connect with a client. If every other sentence is "I've found in my life that," they aren't using therapeutic skills, they are just going off of their subjective experience to life. I'm actually learning a lot about what not to do when someone is venting to me. Thanks Reddit. If a therapist doesn't give you an informed consent, if a therapist doesn't thoroughly explain his / her informed consent to make sure you understand, if a therapist doesn't listen to your needs, if a therapist says they are a therapist, CBT, DBT, psychoanalytic, etc., and they don't listen to your individual needs, if a therapist routes all your problems back to some aspect of your life. For example, if a therapist tries to make every problem in your life about your sexuality, even when they are unrelated. Overall, if it feels like you aren't being heard and understood, red flag. More so, if it feels like the therapist isn't trying to understand your point of view. Removed. 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 Therapists who don't set clear boundaries. Boundaries are very important. Removed. Removed. Therapist here. They should never make judgments about people in your life, especially yours, so it's pretty basic that you can't form an opinion on someone based on your patient's description. Doesn't mean they never say anything about the relationship, but they should seek a lot of information and only talk about people in relation to you. Removed.